Thanks, Joe. We do have a few questions. And the first question that we do have is, could you speak more to the diversity and inclusion initiatives that are being implemented?
That's a really good question. I'm glad it was asked tonight because with all the events in our country over the last year and a lot of the things going on, we realized that, frankly, having a positive social impact is everybody's job, and that we need to do things very purposefully and intentionally to try to make the communities in which our members live and work and raise their families the kind of place that we would all want to live in and work in and raise our families in. And so as we took a step back and looked at it, we realized how important this was. And our first decision was, as you saw in the tape, to appoint a director of social impact to help us put a focus on those kinds of things and take a look at the places where Wright-Patt Credit Union can really make an impact and do the most good, because we want the communities that we all live in to work for everybody, regardless of background, regardless of perspective, regardless of where you come from or who you might have been and who you are today. And so the things that we're planning on doing is we're putting the finishing touches on our social impact plans. Trying to take a look at where we can do those types of things, looking internally at the credit union, at our own workforce, making sure that everybody who works here, we have 1,100 employees here at the credit union, that they all have opportunity, they all have an ability to move up, that we're working for all of our employees. Same thing out in the community. How do we make sure that the power that is Wright-Patt Credit Union is spread throughout the communities no matter what, so that everybody can enjoy in the benefits that a credit union like us can bring? I can't speak to a lot of the most specific plans because we are just putting the final touches on our plan, working with Ivy and a lot of others at the credit union actually. But we just think it's very, very important that we take the resources that we have, and as I said before, that we become purposeful and intentional and mindful of the difference that we can make for the people in the communities that we serve. I think that's kind of the beauty of being a not-for-profit credit union, is it allows us to think about that, and we realize we have to be more purposeful about it. So I expect big things, frankly, and I think these next 6, 9, 12 months you'll really see how we're able to do the kinds of things more purposely than maybe we took for granted before. So I'm really glad that question was asked, because that's a big deal here at the credit union. So thank you.
The next question: what are Wright-Patt Credit Union's plans for future locations?
Joe, if you don't mind, I'll take that one also. So when we think about the credit union, how it's grown, we don't try to grow for growth's sake. What we try to grow instead is we try to grow in impact in the numbers of people in our communities that we're able to help. And how we deliver services to those people is a mix of digital services, but also our physical branches, we call them member centers. So we've put up a couple in the last year. We have 2 about to open, one up in Piqua, opening in 2 or 3 weeks, and shortly thereafter one in the Gahanna area outside of Columbus. And when I talked in the video about having plans on the drawing table, where we look first is where do our members live and where do they work, and are there areas where we have members that aren't really convenient to some of our existing locations. We also look at the financial need in the areas around Dayton and Cincinnati and Columbus to try to figure out where's the best place where we can invest the members' money to serve the most possible members. So while I can't tonight tell you exactly where the next locations are going to go, I can tell you there will be more locations. They will kind of follow the membership and follow the need and follow the population trends in the state of Ohio, and we're really excited to be able to do that. I think you'll see more investment in Columbus, you'll see more investment in Dayton, you'll see more investment in the other areas where our members are going about their daily lives, and we just want to be able to do the best we can for them. So our expansion plans are important to us, and I do think you'll see more happening. I'm just not ready to talk about specific locations yet because, frankly, we haven't made final decisions on them.
Okay, our next question. Since digital technology is becoming more of the norm since COVID-19, do you see a big change in the future on how you provide best-in-class service?
Wow, like it hasn't changed much already, right? I mean, the way we've delivered services has changed tremendously over the years. Who would have thought, even just a few years ago that we would take deposits from members by them taking pictures of the check with their cell phone and kind of emailing us the picture of the check, and that's good enough for a deposit. The fact of the matter is the way financial institutions deliver financial services has changed very rapidly in the past, and there will be no change in the pace of change in the future. And we think it's going to take a balance of digital solutions plus member center locations so that we can serve members in the way that they most want to be served. We created here in 2021 a digital transformation team. It's led by a really bright young lady, Remy Cruz, and her team. We've got a couple people taking a look at how can we best take the services that we deliver them digitally to members so that members can gain access to their accounts faster, more securely, easier than ever before. So the direct answer to the question, yes, it's going to change. It will probably never stop changing. The challenge that we have is how do we read the needs of the members and be able to develop all the service delivery systems that they most want from their credit union. And I think we're doing actually a pretty good job with that. So it's going to keep changing, and we need to keep changing right along with it.
Okay, our next question. Are there any plans to join the Zell network?
That's a really good question also. They're all good questions, aren't they? The answer is we are currently at the very end of studying a new P2P, that stands for people-to-people payment system. That's what Zell is. It probably wouldn't be Zell, but it could be. We're just not ready to announce it yet, but we do think that it's very important that we offer a state-of-the-art, fast way for members to move money between people to people as quickly as we possibly can. We know the solution that we have now isn't what you'd call state-of-the-art. We have a team that's been working on it for quite a long while, and we're just getting ready to make the recommendation and implement a new solution. Again, I just can't tell you which one it is yet because we haven't put the ink on the dotted line yet, but there are plans to improve our P2P capabilities, and I think members will really like what we have coming out in that regard.
Okay, the next question. How long will the following restrictions stay in effect at your location? Mandatory wearing of masks, capacity restrictions, and the need to make an appointment to see someone.
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? With the pandemic on the wane, yet state mandates still in place, guidance from the CDC and other public health agencies, I guess the best answer to that is we hope to not continue those kinds of restrictions one day longer than necessary. Look, nobody likes them. We don't like them. We don't like the fact that we have a mandate that we have to live under, but we also have to keep our employees and the members that visit us safe. During the height of the pandemic, frankly, it was touch and go. We had so many employees off either with the virus or on quarantine to keep them safe from the virus that it started to become a question of would we have to start to close locations, not because of the virus, but because would we have enough staff to work in them? And so the reason that we implemented a lot of the restrictions in the first place was really an effort to keep every location we have open, and we could only do that if we had staff to work there, and we had to keep the staff safe. So I hope we can withdraw those restrictions just as soon as we can. We do rely on the state mandate. We feel like we have no choice but to abide by that. I hope we can take those off just as soon as we possibly can. It seems to be the news is good in that regard. I'm hopefully just another few weeks, months, I don't know, but when we can, we will. That's our commitment. We don't want to have those in place any longer than we have to.
Thank you, Doug. This question is for Joe. How do you become a member of the board of directors, and how do you determine who qualifies?
Well, that's a good question. To get on the board of directors, we have a process. To start off with, a person would contact the credit union and ask for an application to get into what's called an associate program. And so what we did decades ago was create an associate program. As this credit union has gotten very large and very complex, there's a lot to know, a lot to learn. to be on the board of directors, you need a certain level of experience, not just in the world, but with how the credit union works and our philosophies and all those things. And so the associate program allows a person to sit with the board, be on committees, do everything except vote, so that they learn what's going on and they become ready to join the board. And then when there is an opening on the board, what happens is typically the governance committee looks at the associates and selects however many we need to fill the open positions, or at least puts them up for election in those positions. And that way, the person who was the associate has an opportunity while they're associate to see if this is really what they want to do. Sometimes we find that people can't make the time commitments. They had unrealistic expectations of what was involved, or they didn't really understand it, or they just decide this is not the place where they can best serve and they move on to something else. Sometimes the board says, well, that person is just not ready to become a board member at this time. So it's really a good process for both the potential board member and the board to get to know people. So if somebody is interested in being on the board, I would recommend that they contact the credit union and ask about the associate program.
Thank you, Joe, and thank you, Doug. That appears to be all the questions that we have for this evening. I'd like to remind everybody that the recording of this year's meeting will be made available at wpcu.coop/annual-meeting. I want to thank everyone once again for joining us for our 2021 annual business meeting, and I hope you all have a great evening.